The Joint Committee of the Senate and House of Representatives on Constitution Review has approved the creation of an additional state in the Southeast geopolitical zone, increasing the region's total to 6. The decision was reached during a 2-day retreat in Lagos, where the committee reviewed 55 proposals for state creation across the country. Currently, the Southeast has 5 states. This is fewer than the 6 or 7 that make up other geopolitical zones. The session, chaired by the Deputy Senate President, Burrell Jibrin, and co-chaired by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Reps, Benjamin Kalu, deliberated extensively on the matter. Kalu, among other many lawmakers who had consistently championed the demand of an additional state for the region, reiterated that the request was anchored on principles of equity, justice, and fairness. Members of the committee who approved the request later took turns to deliberate on the issue, speaking in favor of granting the Southeast an additional state. Following the deliberations, Senator Abdul Ningi moved a motion for the creation of the new state, which was seconded by Ibrahim Ishaka. The motion received the support of committee members and was adopted. In a related development, the Joint Committee also established a subcommittee to further consider the creation of additional state and local government areas across all 6 geopolitical zones, noting that a total of 278 proposals were submitted for review. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NAD, has declared that it would embark on a nationwide indefinite strike starting from November 1, following the expiration of a 30-day ultimatum earlier issued to the federal government. NAD's president, Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, disclosed this in an exclusive interview with newsmen on Saturday. Suleiman stated that the association's National Executive Council reached a decision after reviewing the government's response to their demands during its virtual emergency meeting. He noted that the strike notice would be formally issued within 24 hours as mandated by the NEC. The looming strike is expected to heavily impact services in hospitals across the country, where resident doctors form the backbone of clinical care. NAD had on September 26 given the federal government 1 month to address a series of unresolved issues affecting the welfare and training of resident doctors and medical officers across the country. The association raised concerns over the non-payment of the outstanding 25% and 35% upward review arrears of CONMES, which should have been settled by the end of August 2025, despite several engagements with the federal government. Governor Chukwuma Soludo has stirred controversy after announcing cash reward of 1 million naira for every ward won by his party, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, in the forthcoming November 8 governorship election. While speaking on Saturday during the party's campaign rally in Umunze, Orumbasa local government area, Soludo promised to give his party supporters a 1 million naira. The pledge provoked backlash from opposition parties and civil society organizations, which described the move as open inducement and a gross violation of the Electoral Act. About 2.8 million registered voters are expected to participate in the poll, in which 16 political parties and their candidates will contest the governorship seat. The newly appointed chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amupitan, had emphasized the significance of the Anambra election in consolidating the country's democracy. The SAC's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, and 2 other service chiefs, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, and Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, are set to receive generous retirement benefits. The benefits include bulletproof vehicles, domestic aid, and lifetime medical care. Their exit follows President Bola Tinubu's appointment of new service chiefs on Friday. General Olufemi Oluyode has been named the new Chief of Defense Staff, while Major General Shaibu takes over as Chief of Army Staff. Air Vice Marshal Sunday Kelvin Aneke becomes the new Chief of Air Staff, and Rear Admiral Abbas the Chief of Naval Staff. The Chief of Defense Intelligence, Major General EAP Udendeye, retains his position. According to the harmonized terms and conditions of service for officers and enlisted personnel in the Nigerian Armed Forces, signed by President Bola Tinubu on December 14, 2024, the service chiefs are entitled to substantial retirement packages upon disengagement. Some prison contractors in charge of supplying food to inmates in correctional centers across the country have raised the alarm over alleged federal government's failure to pay outstanding debts amounting to more than 30 billion naira. Two of the contractors, who claim to have supplied meals to facilities under the Nigerian Correctional Service, stated that they have been owed for several months, including a backing of approximately 7.7 billion naira from late 2023, in addition to an unimplemented feeding rate approved since August 2024. They also lamented that despite the government's approval to increase the daily feeding allowance per inmate from 750 naira to 1,125 naira, payment had continued at the old rate, creating a 23 billion naira shortfall. Concerns have emerged following the government's inability to implement a revised feeding allowance approved over a year ago. In August 2024, the presidency approved an upward review of the daily feeding allowance for inmates from 750 naira to 1,125 naira per inmate, an adjustment due to rising food prices and the ripple effect of fuel subsidy removal. The revised rate, which was expected to take effect from August 1, 2024, was aimed at improving the quality of meals provided in correctional centers and easing financial pressure on contractors. Over a year later, suppliers lamented that the reviewed rate remained unimplemented, leaving them to operate under the old payment structure. Findings by Sunday Punch also revealed that the contractors are being owed approximately 7.7 billion naira for the months of October, November and December 2023. Over 12 months, the gap has increased into an estimated 23 billion naira debt, in addition to the existing 7.7 billion naira backlog, bringing the total amount owed to about 30.7 billion naira. The official disclosed that the unpaid funds might affect the quality and quantity of food being served to inmates. Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State has issued an executive order mandating the traditional councils to continue organizing annual Durbar festivals. The governor disclosed this while inaugurating the maiden edition of the Kano Festival of Arts and Culture, Kanfest, popularly known in Hausa as Kalankuwa, on Saturday. He called for the revival of and preservation of the state's centuries-old cultural heritage. At the official opening ceremony, which was held at the Kano Trade Fair Complex, Governor Yusuf said the festival marked a milestone in the history of the state, describing Kano as a city deeply rooted in history, arts, culture and heritage that has stood for centuries as a center of learning, commerce, creativity and civilization. Governor Yusuf said beyond preserving history, the revitalization of culture and tourism remains part of his administration's strategy to create jobs and drive economic diversification. The Katsina State Governor, Diko Rada, has approved the release of 677.6 million naira for the payment of bursary allowances, academic excellence awards, and special needs scholarships to Katsina students studying in tertiary institutions across Nigeria. With this latest round, Katsina State's total investment in student support has now reached 2.6 billion naira, directly benefiting tens of thousands of students and reaffirming the state's leadership in promoting educational advancement in northern Nigeria. Out of the total approved amount, over 2.8 million naira will be disbursed as bursary allowances to newly admitted Katsina students in tertiary institutions across the country. Another 15 million naira has been earmarked for the Katsina State Government Award of Academic Excellence, which recognizes graduates with first-class honors in their respective disciplines. In addition, 7 million naira has been set aside for the annual Special Scholarship Program aimed at supporting students with special needs. A statement signed by Ibrahim Muhammad, the Chief Press Secretary to RADA on Saturday, noted that this approval underscores the governor's firm belief in education as a catalyst for empowerment, growth and social inclusion, in line with his Building Your Future agenda, which places human capital development at the heart of governance. Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State has ordered an investigation to fish out the proponents behind the instigation of the reintroduction of harmful widowhood practices in the state. Uzodinma gave the charge in Isheke, Awomama, Oru East, where female siblings of a deceased man tried to force his wife to drink the water used to wash the corpse to prove her innocence over his death on Friday. Represented by the Commissioner for Women Affairs, Lady Nkechi Ugu, Uzodinma warned locals to desist from such practice, saying it will not be allowed in Imo State. The Imo State Commissioner for Women Affairs, Chief Nkechi Ugu, and security operatives had on Friday saved a widow, Mrs. Chika Ndubisi, from drinking the water used to wash her husband's corpse. Ugu, alongside the local government chairman and security operatives, stormed the event of the burial at Isheke, Awomama, Imo State on Friday, October 24th. The commissioner said the Imo State Ministry of Women Affairs, Onurube Coalition Group, Virgin Heart Foundation, Hasco Global Media, Odumodu TV, and Sisters with a Goal intervened, rescued the widow, and provided her with support and protection. Ugu disclosed that the widow, Chika Joy Amanda, was falsely accused by her in-laws, the Akame Wulem family, of killing her husband. Scores, who pleaded anonymity, said Chika was locked inside the ambulance that conveyed the corpse to the Isheke community for 2 hours, waiting for her to drink the water before help arrived. However, due to the heavy presence of security operatives and government officials, the in-laws backed down and allowed her to alight from the ambulance. The Kano State Hizbah Board has arrested no fewer than 25 persons for allegedly organizing same-sex marriage in the Hetero area of Kano Metropolis. The deputy commander of the board, Mujahideen Aminuddin, confirmed the arrest of the suspect in a statement, a copy of which was made available to newsmen on Sunday. According to him, the suspect, comprising 18 males and 7 females, were apprehended at the Fatima Event Center, located along Hotero Bypass in Kano Metropolis on Saturday. He explained that the suspect, including the groom, who hailed from Sheka, Yagaha, Kofa Nasarawa, and other places, were arrested at the event center. The deputy commander warned that the board would not fold its arms and allow undesirable elements to tarnish the good image and reputation of Kano State. Lastly, on the foreign news, left-wing independent Catherine Connolly was on Saturday declared the winner of Ireland's presidential election, beating her centrist opponent by a huge margin in a contest marred by spoiled ballots. Connolly, 68, a lawyer, lawmaker and outspoken critic of both the United States and European Union, won over 63% of the ballots, well ahead of centrist candidate Heather Humphreys on 29.5%. But the seemingly comprehensive victory was marred by the number of spoiled votes and criticism over the lack of right-wing candidates amid frustration over issues including immigration and crime. Nearly 13% of the 1.65 million ballots cast were invalid, a record in a modern Irish election. She vowed to be a voice of peace, a voice that builds the policy of neutrality, as well as a voice that articulates the existential threat posed by climate change. Connolly's election to a role with limited political power could nothing less herald an era of increased friction between Ireland's largely ceremonial presidency and governments. Alright, that was the news hour on TV Sapiencia. On behalf of the editorial and technical crew, my name is Somto Okafo. Good afternoon once again, and thank you for choosing TV Sapiencia. Have a wonderful Sunday.